over Operation Sindoor. The opposition is saying that they want a full-fledged discussion in Parliament, and they also want clarification on the repeated claims that are being made by President Donald Trump that he was the one who mediated a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. India has, of course, outright rejected those claims. The opposition also wants the Prime Minister to address the House and clarify on these comments. The BJP says there will be a discussion. In fact, the Speaker's office has confirmed that they have allotted 16 hours for the discussion on Operation Sindoor sometime next week. The Prime Minister today, in the first day of the monsoon session of Parliament, setting the stage in a way by saying that this will be a Vijay Utsav. The national unity between government and opposition, between ruling party benches, the treasury benches and the opposition benches that we saw during the course of Operation Sindoor and its immediate aftermath, will that now stand the test of Parliament's rough and tumble? This is going to be the biggest scrutiny, the biggest test in that sense of national unity that was achieved in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor. Will politics and the hum and drum of Parliament derail that national unity when it comes to such an important national security issue? Let's listen in to various political reactions coming in today, and then we'll go across to our guests as well.
ये मॉनसून सत्र एक विजयोत्सव है। पूरी दुनिया ने भारत की सैन्य शक्ति का, भारत के सैन्य के सामर्थ्य का रूप देखा है। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में भारत की सेना ने जो लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया था 100% अचीव किया। आतंकियों के आकाओं के घर में जाकर के 22 मिनट के भीतर भीतर ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के तहत उसको जमींदोज कर दिया गया। देश ने एकता की ताकत देखी है, एक स्वर का सामर्थ्य क्या होता है देखा है। सभी माननीय सांसद उसको बल दें, उसको आगे बढ़ाएं कि दल हित में मत भले न मिले, लेकिन देश हित में मन जरूर मिले।
As pandemonium over Operation Sindoor discussion, it was a washout on day one in the Lok Sabha certainly. The opposition, particularly the Congress, insisted that the Prime Minister be present in the House when the Sindoor discussion takes place. The government made it clear in both houses of Parliament that they were not shying away from a discussion. In fact, like I said, the Speaker has allotted sometime next week 16 hours for discussion on Operation Sindoor. The opposition has also demanded that the leaders of the opposition, that's Rahul Gandhi in the Lok Sabha and Mr. Kharge in the Rajya Sabha, be allowed to put forth their points of view. Rahul Gandhi today claimed that the opposition was being silenced. The government, on the other hand, was quick to point out to the ruckus that was created by opposition MPs in the well of both houses. They even pointed to the absence of Rahul Gandhi when his own colleagues were raising issues of national concern.
सर, पहलगाम हमला 22 अप्रैल को हुआ था। अब तक आतंकवादी पकड़े नहीं गए, मारे भी नहीं गए, लेकिन मैं चाहता हूं कि उनके तरफ से हमको मालूमात मिलना चाहिए। विषय प्रश्न नहीं है, ये पहलगाम एंड ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में आपने जो दुनिया को बताया, हमको बताया, हिंदुस्तान के लोगों को बताया, उसकी बात कर रहा हूं।
देश में कहीं यह संदेश नहीं जाना चाहिए कि सरकार पहलगाम और ऑपरेशन सिंदूर पर चर्चा नहीं चाहती। हम चर्चा करेंगे, हर तरीके से करेंगे, और ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के सारी पॉइंट्स को देश और दुनिया के सामने रखा जाएगा।
Now, a few minutes after the first adjournment that happened in the Lok Sabha this morning, the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, he alleged bias in the functioning of Parliament. He claimed that he's being deliberately not allowed to speak inside the Parliament. But one wonders whether if he didn't get the opportunity, and if that is indeed the case, then whose fault exactly is that? The opposition was, of course, creating a ruckus within 15 minutes of the proceedings beginning. A reminder that promptly came from the acting chair. Let's listen into what Rahul Gandhi had to say and how the BJP is countering that. And of course, this sets the stage for what is likely to be a fiery showdown in the Sansad on Operation Sindoor.
नहीं, देखिए सवाल ये है कि जो हाउस में डिफेंस मिनिस्टर को बोलने देते हैं, उनके लोगों को बोलने देते हैं, मगर अगर विपक्ष का कोई कुछ कहना चाहता है तो अलाउड नहीं है। मैं लीडर ऑफ अपोजिशन हूँ, मेरा हक है, तो मुझे तो कभी बोलने ही नहीं देते हैं। तो ये एक नया अप्रोच है।
राहुल गांधी से अपील करूंगा कि आप कृपया, जब 0 आवर है और आज बिजनेस एडवाइजरी कमेटी की बैठक है, जो विषय भी आप चाहते हैं वो बिजनेस एडवाइजरी कमेटी में रखा जाएगा। ये सदन ऐसे नहीं चलता। हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, हम सदन चलाना चाहिए, क्यों एडजस्ट करें? हम चाहते हैं कि सदन चले। आपका 0 आवर है, मैं चाहता हूं आपको अवसर दूं। जितने माननीय सदस्य के 0 आवर में आए हैं, मैं उनको सबको अवसर देना चाहता हूं, लेकिन आप सदन नहीं चलने देना चाहते।
All right, I want to go across for a face-off. Radhika Khera, spokesperson of the BJP, is joining us. G. Kumar Nayak is Lok Sabha Member of Parliament of the Congress. Radhika Khera, so you heard what the leader of the opposition had to say. He's saying that he's being deliberately silenced while government representatives, while ministers are being allowed to speak. The treasury benches are being heard, but when the opposition wants to make a point, their voices are being silenced. That is Rahul Gandhi's direct charge against the government. Please respond.
Good evening. A man who was allowed to wink, hug in full cheeks in Parliament is now crying foul over not being allowed to speak. Rahul Gandhi has served 5 terms in this house, Amethi from 2004 to 19, then Wayanad 2019, and today from 2024 he's been at Raebareli, drawing a salary and usage of parliamentary privileges since 2004. Yet in the 17th Lok Sabha alone, the India Alliance Prime Minister faces attendance hovered about 51% with participation in only 8 debates, raising a mere 99 questions, all striking below the national average of 79% attendance, 47 debates and 210 questions. Fast forward to June 2024, Rahul Gandhi is officially the leader of opposition, a position which has been reclaimed by the Congress after a decade. And now the same man is alleging that he is not being allowed to speak. But the records, Zaka, tell a clearer story, one of frequent absenteeism coupled with orchestrated disruptions. And one must ask, if you were truly silenced, why lead massive walkouts during the president's speech or command disruption and storm the well when the prime minister speaks? Why is he not opting to engage? This is not democracy, it's disruption. When crucial discussions like the Waqf bill or national security arise, he is always missing. Now, as per what you just told us before the show started, that 16 hours have been allocated in the Lok Sabha, 9 in Rajya Sabha for Operation Sindoor, plus debates on income tax bills, space missions and more. Business Advisory Committee has laid it all down. Now the government is prepared to debate. You have even shown a footage of our Honorable Health Minister, our President, Shri J.P. Nadda ji, and the leader of the House in the Rajya Sabha, that we are ready to debate. We are ready to talk out every single point. But the opposition is choosing chaos. The dilemma is, why are they choosing chaos? Why are they shouting and walking out?
Mr. Kumar Nayak, the Speaker says that 16 hours have been allocated. Next week there will be a discussion on Operation Sindoor. Why doesn't the opposition allow the House to function? Today, 0 hour, question hour, nothing was allowed to function because the opposition insists that the debate on Operation Sindoor should start right away. This was discussed threadbare in the Business Advisory Committee. They've allocated time next week. Why not stick to that?
Why don't we start today and right now? The country can't wait, or the opposition can't wait till the next week. We have waited for 3 full months. The Pahalgam incident took place complete 3 months ago. We have waited. We have seen the situation unfold. We have seen the events unfold. We have stood behind the government. We have stood behind our armed forces. We have been with the government in its campaign across the globe. What more do they expect from the opposition parties? Let them not forget that it is parliamentary democracy and this is not a monarchy. From the day one, from the moment one, they should be able to answer what is the most important thing which the country is expecting us to debate. Country is waiting with bated breath as to what the government has to offer as an explanation to number of things, number of issues that we would like to project and take it up in this session. Definitely, we will not be able to wait till next week. We want the debate right now.
No, but Mr. Naik, you said that you have waited 3 months. Pahalgam happened on April 22nd. Tomorrow is July 22nd. That's 3 months. Why not wait 1 more week and have a full-fledged debate? Let the country watch and listen to both sides.
Why can't we start today? I am surprised why this government wants to project as though the opposition is not willing to wait for 15 minutes or 1 week. We have waited for 1 month or 3 months actually, and there are a number of issues which we need to debate. I would like to just point out 4 important issues. The first is that of Pahalgam incident itself. Is this a security lapse? Is this an intelligence failure? We want a debate on that. The second issue would be the actual attack. There is a contradiction. Honorable Prime Minister of this country said that he had given complete free hand to the armed forces. We believed him. But we see that the armed forces are contradicting him, saying that it is the political restrictions which were imposed and that resulted in number of aircraft losses to this country. The government doesn't want to discuss this or talk about this. And the third important point is that of the policy failure that we have been seeing. In this entire episode, not a single neighboring country stood with our country. Nobody issued a statement of support.
Okay.
In fact, we see the whole world goes about the business as though nothing is happening. The World Bank has sanctioned loans. The Russia goes about giving the aid, and it says that you will rejuvenate the steel factory in Pakistan.
Okay.
And the fourth point is that of the international insult that the India is facing. Prime Minister is not Prime Minister of BJP. He is the Prime Minister of this country. He is our Prime Minister. If he is insulted, the country is insulted. It is not the BJP which stands to understand this.
Okay, so Radhika Khera,
I would like to say that the moment
the fact that
the US
was that
the way he treated this country.
Yeah. The fact that there was there an intelligence failure? Why have the terrorists who attacked in Pahalgam not been caught 3 months on? And most importantly, the last point that Mr. Naik is making, President Trump has been repeating ad nauseum, maybe more than 24 times in the last couple of months, that he was the one who mediated and stopped the war between India and Pakistan. He even goes to the extent of saying that jets were shot down. I think 5 jets were shot down is what he said.
He did not mention which country's jets were shot down. So saying that they were India's jets is absolutely imagining things. And we all know that Pakistan lost their jets. Having said that, the Congress spokesperson here, I'm very surprised today that he took a stand by saying he is our Prime Minister. I'm glad. But sir, you could be penalized by your party for saying that, because Mr. Gandhi and Mr. Kharge do not agree that he is the Prime Minister of the country. That's why they behave like he's the Prime Minister of BJP. Well, kudos to you for having said that. Having said that, they're saying that we publicly stood by. Are you forgetting Imran Masood Sahab, who is your Lok Sabha member of Lok Sabha? He has repeatedly demanded and said, where is this, and questioned our army. We've even seen Mr. Kharge ji questioning the army. We've seen a lot of instances where your party and your leaders have questioned the army, have questioned the government on the Pahalgam issue. You people were the poster boys of the Pakistani media. Every second day, a statement of Mr. Kharge or Rahul Gandhi or someone from the Congress was played by the Pakistani media, mocking the Indian government and India completely all the time. You were always making headlines in Pakistan, and you're saying you stood by the country. And if you really want to know which country stood by us, you have your colleagues, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, you have Mr. Salman Khurshid, you have Mr. Manish Tiwari. Both of them are with you in the parliament. Why don't you ask them? They came back and said that we have seen what the Prime Minister's trips abroad have bought us and how the world is standing by us today. You are not on the same line.
Mr. Naik, your own colleagues in your party, Mr. Tharoor, Mr. Tiwari, Mr. Khurshid, were all part of various multi-party delegations, went to various global capitals, and they will give you proof of which other countries that stood with India.
I would like to just say that we have lent the best of our team to this country to go around the whole world and take up the position of the government. That is one aspect. Now today we are starting the parliamentary session. This parliamentary session is not about tom-tomming what government's view is. This is not Vijayotsav. This is a multi-party democracy of this country. It is the fundamental right of opposition parties to raise the issues which are lingering in the minds of the people of this country. There is no way that we will be doing this Jai Kar. Please don't come and teach us Deshbhakti. We are not interested in being bhakts of single person or andhbhakts. We are Deshbhakts. We don't need to take Deshbhakti lessons from you.
Radhika Khera, I mean, ultimately, in a democracy,
one more point. Please, Jaka, allow me one more point. The role of media is also under question. The way the mainstream media of this country covered this specific battle, unimaginable. We became the object of derision and fun across the world. This is unfortunate that the way the entire episode was covered.
No, but Mr. Naik, I mean, I would beg to differ with you. At least I can speak for CNN News 18. I don't think we did anything in our coverage that we are not proud of in the manner in which we brought about that story. And it's there for our viewers to judge. I mean, we've got so much internal and external feedback about our coverage. So I beg to differ with you on that issue. But I think the pertinent point that he asked, Radhika Khera, please respond. We are a democracy at the end of the day. The government of the day is answerable to Parliament, to the people of India. Absolutely. And there are still very big questions around Sindur and, the terror attack that happened in Pahalgam, for which the government needs to come clean and respond to the people from the floor of the House.
Absolutely. But have you seen the arrogance of the Congress member of Parliament here? He said, we have lent. Sir, you are here because the nation gave you their votes. And you're saying you have lent yourselves to the nation? This is the arrogant Zakat, which is why the Congress is out of power and they were away from the leader of opposition post. Abhi mili hai, respect that. The reason the Congress led by Rahul Gandhi does not have any respect, the arrogance. I am shocked that a party which claims to be Mahatma Gandhi's party is saying that we have lent our people. Sir, please keep quiet. And do not shame the country anymore. You are also shaming every single person who has voted for you. And this is the height of arrogance that we have lent. People have given you their vote. You better be going and representing the country when the country needs you. You are not doing a favor to the country. Having said that, Zaka, when you're talking about discussions, they have to keep quiet and agree to discussion. You remember in the previous session when the president was speaking, the opposition staged a walkout. When the Prime Minister was speaking, you remember how Rahul Gandhi was pushing his people into the well and saying, tamasha karo, tamasha karo. And today, if they wanted a discussion, they should have stayed silent. What sort of discussion goes on in a democracy by screaming, yelling, and not letting Parliament function? You have made a mockery of the institution of the Parliament and our country. India is progressing today, and which is hurting you more than the fact that the
Naik,
Prime Minister has
I have to wrap up after this. The point is, I mean, the government has agreed to a discussion. They've allotted time for the discussion. The Speaker is asking for who the speakers will be from each of these political parties. But to say that, we want to have the discussion here and now, and whatever she said about, you can't say you lent your people. I mean, the nation needed them and they stepped up.
That is why they are there always for the country. They are definitely there. But today the idea is that Parliament session has started. We need to ask questions and we need to ask now. We will not be able to wait any further. And government has to come clean on number of issues which they are they are supposed to do.
Okay, we'll leave it at that, Mr. Naik and Ms. Khera. We'll leave it at that. I have to wrap up, but we'll see if at all there is going to be a discussion. Maybe not this week, but certainly next week. It seems like both government benches as well as the opposition benches are readying themselves for a fiery face-off as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. Talking about fiery face-offs, the internal rift within the Congress party is intensifying now after Shashi Tharoor praised the central government and its handling of national security, prioritizing the nation over anything else. The senior Congress leader from Kerala, Mr. Muralidharan, who is also former KPCC president, has reacted sharply, declaring that the Congress party has given up on Mr. Tharoor, announcing that he would be barred from all party events in Thiruvananthapuram until he aligns with the party's stand when it comes to issues like Operation Sindoor. According to Congress sources, the party has not taken any final decision when it comes to what to do about Shashi Tharoor. They are yet to take a call on whether they need to distance themselves from Tharoor, whether any kind of disciplinary action needs to be taken against him. In fact, the top Congress sources have said that Mr. Muralidharan's response to Mr. Tharoor is his own viewpoint and not necessarily that of the parties. Let's listen in to these reactions. Of course, this latest flare-up between the Congress and Dr. Tharoor is based on what he said this weekend in Kochi, where he said when it comes to choosing between the nation and the party, he has always put nation first, and that is what is irking some folks in his party.
We have certain values and convictions that keep us in our parties, but we need to cooperate with other parties in the interests of national security, the question you asked. Sometimes the parties feel that is disloyal to them, and that becomes a big problem. Which is your first loyalty? To my mind, the nation comes first. A lot of people have been very critical of me because of the stand I've taken supporting our armed forces and our government and what happened recently in our country and on our borders. But I will stand my ground because I believe this is the right thing for the country.
Final authority will be the Congress High Command. They should take whether action, they can take action or they can allow him to continue the party. At present in Kerala situation, we are not ready to cooperate with him because he is always attacking Congress party.
Now, this is not the first time that Tharoor seems to have differed from his official party line or party view. Earlier this year, the Congress MP had praised Prime Minister Modi, quoting US President Donald Trump, who has spoken highly of Prime Minister Modi's negotiation skills. At that time, the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge had stressed on party discipline, sending a subtle hint to Tharoor. Back in March, Tharoor had highlighted Prime Minister's unique diplomacy with the Russia-Ukraine situation and how both him and India were in a position to negotiate with both countries, Russia and Ukraine, to try and put an end to the Ukraine conflict. The Congress had then held a view that strong action must be taken against those who speak against the party line. And more recently, after Operation Sindoor, Tharoor had echoed the government's stand that Donald Trump did not mediate between India and Pakistan and that the ceasefire was structured and was bilateral and was basis upon requests from the Pakistani TGMO. The Congress maintains even now that Trump is taking credit and certainly seems to be claiming credit, and that is an issue that needs to be addressed by the government. They even claim that Mr. Modi surrendered to Mr. Trump over this ceasefire demand between India and Pakistan.
Well, it is Shashi Tharoor versus the Congress party once again. In fact, inside the parliament, there was a brief moment when there was a meeting which took place between Shashi Tharoor and KC Venugopal. The awkwardness of the moment could not be missed out. So what is it that is now latest come up as far as Tharoor versus his party is concerned? It was all triggered off by a recent comment made by Shashi Tharoor in an interaction with young students in Kochi, where he in fact responded to a question by saying that nation comes first and the party next. And very often when he stands up and speaks in favor of the nation, he may come across as someone who's turned against the Congress. In fact, when the Congress has been attacking and questioning the Prime Minister on Trump's claims on post-Operation Sindoor, also on where the terrorists of the Pahalgam terror attack, and Parliament was repeatedly adjourned on this issue, Tharoor's complete backing of the government on this particular issue has certainly not gone down very well with the Congress. Well, the matter didn't end here. Muralidharan went out to say that Shashi Tharoor is completely not a part of the game and he is going to be kept out of all Congress party events. While Congress sources right over here in Delhi said Muralidharan is not the official voice, no such decision has taken place. This best captures a dilemma within the Congress party, the difference in the stand between the Congress unit at the centre and in Kerala. In Kerala, it cannot afford to lose the third time round. 2026 assembly elections are important. There are many voices within the Congress's Kerala unit who feel that Shashi Tharoor's comments are actually going to help the BJP and the left government over there. The BJP is taking those baby steps to register a presence over there and they feel that he could hurt their chances. But over here at the centre, no one wants to ruffle the feather because they know the issue which Shashi Tharoor is raising on nationalism and national unity and standing up to Pakistan is the one thing, an issue on which the Congress cannot be seen as not being along with Shashi Tharoor, and thereby hangs the tale about Shashi Tharoor and his own party.
Meanwhile, the United Kingdom's Royal Navy F-35B jet, which has been stuck in Kerala at the Thiruvananthapuram airport for more than 5 weeks now, is all set to fly back home on Tuesday. The state-of-the-art British fighter jet was pulled back from the hangar today and the departure is scheduled for early tomorrow. The jet's prolonged presence on Indian soil sparked a great deal of curiosity. It also raised a lot of questions over how such a modern aircraft, a fifth-generation fighter jet, which is state-of-the-art, which is perhaps one of the most sophisticated fighter jet technologies in the world right now, how could it be stranded on a foreign country without the ability of being airborne for so long? It's been a month and a half, and finally, after British engineers and scientists came down and repaired this aircraft, now it's in a position to be airborne and flown back home to England. A few days ago, some reports had suggested that the jet would be dismantled and then it would be taken in a transport aircraft, but a team of RAF technicians and engineers have successfully managed to repair the aircraft to the extent that it can now be airworthy again, and it will be flying back to London tomorrow. Now, here's the sequence of events that happened over the last 5 weeks or so. The F-35B jet, the fifth-generation fighter jet, landed in the Thiruvananthapuram airport on the 14th of June. It took off from the HMS Prince of Wales aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea. The pilot contacted the Thiruvananthapuram airport. He declared that he was low on fuel and he requested permission for landing. He basically sought landing clearance from the Thiruvananthapuram ATC. After a few minutes, after getting landing clearance, the F-35B then makes an emergency landing at the Thiruvananthapuram airport. A Royal Navy helicopter then lands with a 2-member repair crew and it remains there overnight. And then subsequently 6 Royal Navy technicians arrive. The aircraft grounding is extended because of mechanical issues. The CISF, which guards all airport installations across the country, is then given the responsibility of giving security cover to the grounded F-35. And this was extended even as the hydraulic failure, which was the reason why the captain of the fighter jet had to request permission and make that emergency landing. That hydraulic failure issue was not fixed. After over 5 weeks and after a team of engineers from the Royal Navy and from Lockheed Martin came down from England, the jet has now finally been repaired and is in a position to be airborne and to be flown back to London tomorrow. Now, 5 weeks of shelter for the British fighter jet is seen as a bit of a jackpot for the Kerala government and particularly for the Thiruvananthapuram airport. According to Indian Defence Research Wing, the fighter jet has incurred a daily parking charge of more than 26,000 rupees for every single day. It's been in the Thiruvananthapuram airport for almost a month and a half now, 38 days to be precise. So if you add that up, 26,000 odd plus into 38 days, that adds up to just a shade under 10 lakh rupees. The cost of that is expected to be borne by the UK government.
British fighter jet F-35, which made an emergency landing at Thiruvananthapuram airport on June 14th, will finally take off tomorrow, is what we are understanding through sources. According to airport sources, the technical issues have been sorted out. On July 6th, a larger technical team, initially a 17-member team from UK, came into Thiruvananthapuram to resolve this issue. It was in the hangar, the F-35. Today, it was brought out of the hangar to the bay. According to airport sources, it is most likely to fly away, to take off from Thiruvananthapuram tomorrow. Initially, when it made an emergency landing, the reason that was said was low fuel and requested refueling, and was said that once refueled, it will go back. But later, it was told that there is some technical issue for this, especially to do with its hydraulics. And after that, even after many days, there was no solution to this problem. Technicians from the Prince of Wales came in, but still it didn't work out. On July 6th, a larger member team, at least 17-member technical team from Britain came in, and they had been working. And what we are understanding through sources is that it is finally, the issue has been resolved.
And while talking about aircraft issues, Union Civil Aviation Minister Rammohn Naidu today addressed the ongoing probe into the Air India 171 plane crash that happened on the 12th of June. Today was the day for the Minister of Civil Aviation to respond to questions, and the Minister responded to some of those questions in the Lok Sabha today. He confirmed that the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB, had successfully decoded data from the black box of the aircraft, and that decoding of that information from the black box, that has shed light on what exactly happened in those fateful 20-odd seconds or 30 seconds or so when the flight was in the air. Naidu also said that the AAIB follows a rigorous, rule-based and impartial process in its investigation. He reassured the public that the government's primary objective was to uncover the truth. The minister also pulled up Western media narratives spinning the blame on the pilot, specifically the pilot in command, which was Captain Sumit Sabharwal. The minister also confirmed that the final probe report will be released within 3 months, and so far there is nothing to suggest or to preemptively jump the gun and blame the pilot for what happened to Air India 171. So far, what the preliminary report, let's listen to what the minister said, and then I'll tell you what the preliminary report says.
The investigation process, which is according to the international protocol, the norms which were set by International Civil Aviation Organization, where the state of operation should have their investigation body, and we have our own investigation body, which is the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, which got into the investigation process right after the incident. And I can say this to the House and through you to the people of this country also, that the AIB has a very definitive, thorough, rule-based process. They are very transparently looking into the process right now, and they are totally unbiased. This also I can say that the AIB is totally unbiased and looking into the facts. If you look at the preliminary reports, sir, AIB as for the first time, so whenever these incidents happen, and if the black box gets damaged, black box is the flight data recorder, which has all the necessary information which gets recorded. And whenever there is a slight damage that happens, it was always, it came to that point, sir, where we were sending the black box outside to the original equipment manufacturer and getting it decoded from that state of manufacture only. And it was for the first time that as a country, India took a stand that the black box which was achieved, even if it was damaged, that the whole decoding process is going to happen in the country, and we have successfully done it in the country also. The AIB has been successful in decoding the entire data which was available. Now there can be many questions also. I have seen multiple articles myself. I have seen multiple articles not only by the Indian media but also the Western media trying to promote their own narrative, their own viewpoint, their own kind of consideration. But I have to tell you that the way we are seeing the investigation is through the facts.
Now, so far, the preliminary report of the Accident Investigation Board has sprung more questions than answers. It's a 15-page report. It reveals that fuel supply was cut to both the engines immediately after takeoff, but there is no clarity on whether it was moved deliberately, accidentally, or whether there was a system malfunction. The cockpit audio captured one pilot, and they have not identified which pilot, but one pilot asking the other, "Why did you cut off?" And the other responds by saying, "I did not." Again, it doesn't assign identity to either of the pilots, nor is there any record of the conversations either before or after this. The report also has no mention of the cockpit camera footage which exists on Boeing 787s, and it would explain if either of the pilots deliberately or manually pulled those fuel cutoff switches from the run mode to the cutoff mode. Meanwhile, there's some breaking news again concerning Air India. The Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Muralidhar Mohol, today answering a question in the Rajya Sabha, had said that in the last 6 months, a total of 9 show-cause notices were issued to Air India in connection with 5 identified safety violations. The show-cause notices were issued by the airline regulator, which is the DGCA. He also said that enforcement action has been completed in respect to 1 violation. He did not specify what action has been taken, if any, in the other 4 violations. So total 5 violations, 9 show-cause notices have been issued to Air India in the last 6 months. The Minister of State for Aviation has also confirmed that no adverse trend was reported in Air India's reliability before that tragic plane crash that happened on the 12th of June, AI 171, which crashed just off the outer perimeter of the Ahmedabad airport. And during the last 6 months, like I said, this reply by the Minister of State for Civil Aviation says that there were 9 show-cause notices issued to Air India. In one instance where there was a case violation, they have taken concerned action as well. But in the 4 other instances, so far there is no clarity on what action has been initiated by the regulator, the DGCA. Meanwhile, it's not particularly looking like, good days for Air India, because we had this instance. In fact, we had 2 instances today. One of an Air India flight that was flying from Kochi to Mumbai. It had a close shave immediately upon landing in Mumbai as it veered off the runway. Remember, it was raining heavily in Mumbai this morning. It was a rain-soaked runway. According to some of the preliminary reports that's available, the aircraft basically veered off the runway shortly after it touched down. There were poor weather conditions, heavy rains all across Mumbai today. Sources indicating that 3 tires burst when the aircraft landed, and that the aircraft's engine, as a result of that, could have possibly been damaged. Pictures also showing a clump of grass that was stuck to the rear part of the aircraft and signs of damage on one of the engines as well. The runway too was partially damaged. Air India has put out a statement confirming the incident and also saying that all on board the flight, passengers and crew, were safe and they safely disembarked.
Air India's flight AI 2744 today morning experienced runway exclusion at the Mumbai International Airport. The flight was coming in from Kochi and was bound to Mumbai. It made successful landing, however no passengers were injured, but the moment it touched down on runway 927 of the Mumbai International Airport, the runway was waterlogged since it has been raining for the past night. The aircraft, the moment it made the contact with the runway, the aircraft skidded, however was well controlled by the pilots and successfully was made to taxi to the stands where the passengers disembarked safely and no passengers were harmed in this incident. The aircraft operators have however said the airline has made a statement that there were certain damages caused to the aircraft. However, it has been sent for basic maintenance checks and they are expecting it will be soon back into the service. At the same time, airport operator has said that the touchdown made at the runway 927 has caused minor damage to the runway. It has also been shut down for operations. However, at the same time, the secondary runway has been put into service.
For weeks now, the Jeffrey Epstein files have rattled the Trump administration, not just Trump's detractors or the Democrats, the folks on the left, but for the very first time in the 6 months that he's been in office, his most loyal MAGA base is not convinced with the explanations from Trump himself or from his spokespersons in the White House. But what has changed for both Trump and his supporters? Let's try and find out.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
Ever since MAGA became a movement, one thing has united it: exposing the rotten core of the so-called liberal elite. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal was the perfect template for MAGA. Wealthy, liberal, powerful folks who were caught trafficking minors and then covering it all up. This would be the perfect pretext for MAGA's revenge. Whether it was Trump or Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, they all played into this conspiracy at various points of time, saying that they will blow the lid off this thing. That client list was not just a rumor, it was the holy grail. MAGA were made to believe that the deep state would fall and that power structures would tumble, and that they would finally get justice for the powerless.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
MAGA at its core were led to believe that Jeffrey Epstein abused underage children and then he conspired to bury the truth. That belief was not on the margins of MAGA, it was mainstream within the MAGA ecosystem. It was repeated on podcasts, whispered in Telegram chats, it was teased in social media posts, and it was amplified by the movement's loudest voices, the leaders of the movement: Trump, Bondi, Patel, and Bongino. The Epstein files were not just a scandal, they were supposed to be the bullet that took out the elite. MAGA functions like a cult. They don't just follow or worship Trump and his lieutenants, but they believed them. They got references, whether it was QAnon, Pizzagate, coded memes, midnight dossier drops, Russiagate. It was all signaling to the base. It was not a conspiracy theory to the MAGA faithful. It was the only way that they could understand the world around them. And Jeffrey Epstein was Exhibit A. They were led up a garden path at the end of which they were promised retribution. Trump played the outsider who was exposing the secrets. The faithful bought it hook, line, and sinker. And then came the memo that was released earlier this month. The Department of Justice puts out that memo. There is no client list. There is no evidence that Epstein blackmailed powerful figures. And yes, the hardest cut, which is that Epstein killed himself in prison. He was not murdered. Bondi oversaw the redactions. Trump himself raised the white flag. He labeled the whole thing a hoax cooked up by the Democrats, by Comey and Brennan and Crooked Hillary and Obama and Biden. And then MAGA exploded. The promised retribution dissolved into thin air. The release all files were met with corporate press statements. Joe Rogan slammed them for failure to deliver and for pissing away public trust. On Truth Social, on X, MAGA figures burned their hats and they called Trump a weakling. There was no client list, no bombshells, no sweeping conspiracy, just hundreds of pages of dry legalese. There were a few redacted interviews. There was a quiet, clinical conclusion from the Department of Justice that Jeffrey Epstein acted alone. He was not part of a blackmail ring, and yes, he committed suicide. He took his own life while he was in prison. To the MAGA base, this feels not like a lie from the deep state. This feels like a lie from one of their own. What cuts deepest is not the failure to produce these Epstein files or the documents, it is the betrayal of identity. MAGA's foundation was that power corrupts. They believed that Trump would shatter that. Instead, Trump became the new gatekeeper. He did not deliver in retribution, he adopted the status quo. He became the status quo. And now what? That's the million-dollar question. Because Trump just asked a court to unseal the Epstein files, and the grand jury transcripts are pending. This is part of his $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for publishing a story which he calls outright false. A story which included a letter that Trump had written to Epstein on his 50th birthday, which was lurid and bawdy. Trump denies writing any such letter. The Journal, though, stands by its story, so we're back at the crossroads. How could this play out? It could play out in one of two ways. Scenario A. Nothing new turns up in the inquiry. If it turns out that the grand jury transcripts confirm that there was no client list, no tapes, no conspiracy, no payoff, MAGA then faces a moment of truth. They will have to recalibrate. Will the supporters swallow another deflection? Will they pivot to other hoaxes? Some of the MAGA folks will stay, some others will walk away. Would MAGA as a cult break? Maybe, maybe not. History shows that Trump's base is extremely tolerant of his indiscretions. But friction here is profound, and it could cost Trump turnout, enthusiasm, and most importantly, the upcoming midterm elections. Scenario B, Trump's name appears in the Epstein files. This would completely crush the MAGA mythology. The idea that he partied with Epstein now will land. No amount of spin can hide that. The cult's founder becomes suspected of pedophilia. The insiders, Bondi, Patel, Bongino, they become tarnished by association. The ultra-faithful will crack. Trump would then have to pivot to martyrdom or redefine the entire MAGA movement. His loyalists either dig deeper, they deny credibility, or they simply splinter, searching for the next cult leader. It's easy to mock MAGA for being a cult, but religion is not just about blind devotion, it's about narrative setting. And up until now, Trump delivered on that narrative. He railed against the deep state, he exposed the corrupt, he gave MAGA the story that they wanted to listen to. Now that story is that Trump might be corrupt, that Trump became the system and the system won. That undermines the core mythology of MAGA, that Trump was different from the rest and he would deliver justice. MAGA was built on rage. It was rage against the corporate media, rage against the elites, rage against the globalists. Epstein became the embodiment of that rage. To walk away from that or to declare that rage as a hoax, which Trump has now done, is a betrayal of the base. The base was not asking for a show trial. They believed that Trump would deliver justice. Now they are just left and they've ended up just raging against the king. For weeks now, Israel and Syria have engaged in secret back-channel talks, searching for a diplomatic solution to decades of tension. This is mainly over the territory that was captured by Israel from Syria during the Arab-Israel War of 1967. Violent unrest has seized the south of Syria in recent days in a place called Sweida. It's a strategically important province on the border with Jordan and very close to Israel. Here in Sweden, over the last few days, government forces, Bedouin tribes, and militias from the Druze minority have clashed over the last week. More than 500 people have been killed in the fighting, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is a Britain-based war monitoring group. It is the deadliest bout of unrest to hit this region in Syria in years now. The fighting broke out last Sunday between armed Bedouin tribes and Druze militias that control large parts of Sweden. It quickly escalated, drawing in both the Syrian government forces as well as the neighboring Israeli defense forces. The Israeli news media has been awash with optimistic predictions of a limited non-aggression pact or even a landmark peace deal between the Jewish state and the former jihadists who have seized control of Syria last year. Israel's brazen strikes over these past week on Syrian government forces, including in the capital, Damascus, have highlighted the premature nature of such expectations in what is a fluid geopolitical situation. It's also exemplified how Israel is still traumatized by Hamas's surprise attack in October of 2023. But Israel has been buoyed by its recent successes against both Hezbollah as well as Iran, which it believes is backing all these proxies in the Middle East. Now, Israel is more likely to use force to preemptively address perceived threats, even if it means it's going to derail diplomacy. The strikes reflect Israel's post-2023 military doctrine under Benjamin Netanyahu. It's a combination of a very strange mixture of paranoia, which was an overriding feeling after the October 7th attacks, and a sense of power following the successes in Lebanon, in Iran, and of course against Hamas. And the result is there is now a preference for force and the use of force and the demonstrable use of force rather than for diplomacy as the first resort. Israel's intervention in Syria, just as talks between Israel and Syria were gaining momentum, has now prompted some exasperation in Washington. Damascus had been trying to de-escalate tensions, but Israel seemed intent on striking regardless. Marco Rubio, who is the US Secretary of State, has described the Syria-Israel tensions as a misunderstanding. He says that the United States has helped broker a ceasefire, an agreement between all parties involved in these clashes. The specific trigger point or the spur for the current round of hostilities was Israel's actions against the Syrian government and the deployment of Syrian forces southwest of that country. This was to try and contain the fighting between the Bedouin tribesmen and the Druze minority of Syria. Though much of Syria's arsenal was decimated by scores of Israeli strikes last year, and also because of years of civil war, the Syrian government was able to send in troops in pickup trucks and outdated tanks to the south of the country in Sweden. For Israelis, that posed a couple of challenges. The first one was a perceived security threat in southwest Syria, where Israel wants to prevent the buildup of potentially hostile forces. Wary of the new Syrian government, which is led by hardline Islamists, Israel has occupied pockets of the southwest of Syria since December of last year. This in a bid to try and prevent Syrian forces from reaching the Israeli border. Israel's second challenge is not foreign, it is domestic. The treatment of Syrian Druze, which has set off unrest among members of Israel's own small but very influential Druze community. The Druze community in Israel held protests, they blocked roads, and in some cases, they forced their way into the border between Israel and Syria. For now, though, it's unclear how Israel will be to a prolonged military campaign in the southern part of Syria, or if Israeli strikes were really just a short-term attempt to try and quell the fury of the Israeli Druze. Roughly 150,000 Druze live under Israeli governance, and that includes some 20,000 Druze who live in the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights, Israel had captured from Syria during the Arab-Israel War of 1967. Unlike other Arab groups in Israel, the Druze have usually served in the Israeli military. In fact, some of the Druze have reached the rank of military general. Other Druze have even died in combat during the ongoing Gaza war. The possibility of Iran directly entering this conflict is a very complex but a very real possibility. While Iran is deeply entangled in Syrian affairs, it supported the previous Bashar al-Assad regime, whether through the IRGC or through the Hezbollah, its motivation is not rooted in defending the Druze minority. The Druze do not identify themselves as Muslim, but they've been an influential minority community both in Israel and in Syria. Iran has no ideological or sectarian affinity for the Druze. The Druze are a heterodox religious group who are often viewed with suspicion by both Sunnis and Shias. If Iran intervenes in this war between Israel and Syria, if it does so more aggressively, it would be less about protecting the minorities or protecting the Druze. If Iran were to get involved in this war, it would be more about undermining Israel and asserting Iran's regional power. For Tehran, the strategic calculus is very simple. It is to weaken Israel, it is to bolster the axis of resistance, and it is to prevent any normalization of ties between Damascus and Tel Aviv. Syria had been making quiet overtures towards Israel about joining the Abraham Accords. This was also encouraged by some other Gulf Arab countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. But now, those efforts seem to be in jeopardy. The renewed Israeli strikes and the Syrian missile responses have hardened positions on both sides. And if Iran were to ramp up its own involvement in this war, it could scuttle any back-channel diplomacy which is aimed at reintegrating Syria into the normalization process between the Arabs and the Israelis. For now, though, the strikes have cast a long shadow over the negotiations between Israel and Syria. And that leaves little immediate hope for any kind of diplomatic agreement. But Israel is most likely still hoping for some kind of limited non-aggression pact with Syrian leader al-Shara. Netanyahu's maximalist call for a completely demilitarized zone south of Damascus may simply be an opening gambit. Ultimately, he will also have to settle for a compromise. Israel could allow Syrian forces to return to parts of southwest Syria as long as al-Shara formally agrees not to attack Israel in a deal that roughly follows the same contours as the deal between Israel and Syria, which was forged in 1974 between Israel and the previous al-Assad regime. For now, though, a lot is still up in the air between Tel Aviv and Damascus. Then the last thing the region needs is yet another full-blown war after almost 2 years of non-stop Israeli wars, first against Hamas, then Hezbollah, the Houthis, and finally the limited strikes against Iran.
Two nations, one agenda, asserting Bharat's place in an evolving global order. A visit to take Indo-UK ties to new heights.
And reset ties with Maldives after new lows. Live and immersive coverage of the Prime Minister's 3-day visit and his twin-track diplomacy. With me, Aman Sharma in Malé.
And me, Anand Narasimhan in London. Live and exclusive. 23rd to the 26th of July, only on CNN News 18.
Co-presented by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Prioritizing the country over anything else. He was quoted as saying that there are national interests that go above party interests, even though there are ideologies that dictate parties. Now, senior Congress leader K. Muralidharan has reacted sharply to what Shashi Tharoor said, declaring that the party has given up on Tharoor, announcing that he would be barred from party events in Thiruvananthapuram, from where he is actually an MP, until he aligns his party's stance. The BJP has quickly seized of this situation, slamming Congress for its obsession with family politics, accusing the party of sidelining leaders like Tharoor for voicing support for the country's national security.
അല്ല അദ്ദേഹം കാര്യം ഞങ്ങൾ വിട്ടല്ലോ. ഇപ്പം അദ്ദേഹം ഞങ്ങളെ കൂട്ടത്തിൽ കൂടിയതായി ഞങ്ങൾ കണക്കാക്കുന്നില്ല. അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ നടപടി വേണോ വേണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ള ദേശീയ നേതൃത്വം തീരുമാനിക്കട്ടെ. അദ്ദേഹം നിലപാട് തിരുത്താത്തോളം കാലം തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് പാർട്ടിയുടെ ഒരു പരിപാടിയിലും അദ്ദേഹത്തിനെ ഞങ്ങൾ പങ്കെടുപ്പിക്കില്ല. അദ്ദേഹം ബഹിഷ്കരിക്കുക, അദ്ദേഹം ഞങ്ങളുടെ കൂടെ ഇല്ല, പിന്നെ എന്തിനാ ബഹിഷ്കരിക്കുന്നത്?
We have certain values and convictions that keep us in our parties, but we need to cooperate with other parties in the interests of national security, the question you asked. Sometimes the parties feel that is disloyal to them, and that becomes a big problem. Which is your first loyalty? To my mind, the nation comes first. A safer India, an India whose borders are protected, whose territory is safe, whose people's well-being can be nurtured. And that is my commitment. And that's, if we hold that ideal up, a lot of people have been very critical of me because of the stand I've taken supporting our armed forces and our government and what happened recently in our country and on our borders. But I will stand my ground because I believe this is the right thing for the country.
Now, we're learning from the Congress party that the party itself has not taken any decision yet if it has to distance itself from Tharoor. They're considering Mr. Muralidharan's viewpoint as his own personal opinion, but the problem is that it has been voiced in public and he has almost made an announcement that Shashi Tharoor is no longer part of them. Pallavi Ghosh, my colleague, joining us with more on this. Pallavi, this is the internal rift, but also the internal conflict on the issue of Shashi Tharoor kind of becoming very apparent. You know, the party leadership doesn't want to be seen as taking any decision against Tharoor, but local leaders are not keeping quiet.
Absolutely, and Shivani, I think it best captures the dilemma within the Congress party. They can't live with Shashi Tharoor, they can't live without Shashi Tharoor, and that is the reason why the Congress is having to think many times over before taking any action against him. Well, what we are picking up from top Congress sources is one, Muralidharan's comments are his own. It doesn't come from any official position. There is no reason why we should be believing or accepting what he's saying. And the second thing is that the Congress party has to make up its mind yet on whether they want to take any action against Shashi Tharoor or not. Now look at the issue that he's picked up, that is of national security, of nationalism. That is an issue on the basis of which they feel that Shashi Tharoor cannot be slighted, he cannot be facing any kind of an action because it is only going to go back and hitting out at the Congress. And that is the reason why the Congress sources are telling us that as of now, they have not made up their mind. They don't plan to take any action against Shashi Tharoor. They are waiting and watching to see. And it is by and large an issue being raised by the Kerala unit of the Congress party, where clearly the dissent is very, very obvious. There's an anger against Shashi Tharoor because they feel that these kind of comments will only end up hurting the party's chances in the 2026 state assembly elections.
Right. Pallavi, this is of course becoming almost an untenable situation. What's the mind of the senior leaders of the Congress party and on ground? This boycott of sorts that is being talked about by the Congress leaders. Do you think it will go ahead, even if not in letter, but in spirit? And how is Mr. Shashi Tharoor likely to take this?
Well, I mean, in fact, we saw it inside the parliament. When I was roaming around inside parliament, I also saw that particular glimpse where K.C. Venugopal did interact with Shashi Tharoor. Clearly, the party also wants to send out this kind of a perception that, we are all in it together. We are not hurting any of us and hating each other. And I think that best captures the kind of problems which the Congress party faces on why they cannot take any action against Shashi Tharoor and why they also feel that the issues that we are raising are the ones which will give a huge ammunition to the BJP should they take any action. But this is very clear. He was seen.
Viewers, today we will let the hard facts speak for themselves, the proof speak for itself. The proof is tumbling out of the closet, let me tell you. And it is only saying one thing, that India's Operation Sindoor has caused untold psychological and material damage to Pakistan's politico-military complex. Now just look at this image, viewers. Look at it very closely. Why am I drawing your attention to this? Because this is taken from a Google Earth satellite and it tells the untold story of India's strike on Pakistan's secret underground nuclear weapons facility in Kirana Hills. India may have repeatedly denied that it carried out any such offensive action, perhaps for tactical and diplomatic reasons. But the impact from an Indian-fired rocket is clearly visible. These images have been passed, viewers, by a technical expert called Damien Simon. He's accessed these pictures, and you can see in the middle of your screens that little splotchiness. That's where the munition impact scar has taken place. It is not very close